Welcome back to the show. Check out these headlines we have for you. Things are heating up, ladies and gentlemen. CFTC says Tether is not a stable coin. We're going to get into that. And the XRP, the road to global reserve currency status, come on in. And an XRP chart that says the stage is set. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content, which you know because you're on YouTube watching this right now. So digitalperspectives.com as well. Give us a follow there and join the Freedom Zone and the DPMG, by the way. $2.65 trillion market cap for crypto. The market is off by 1.1% in the last 24. 66,900 plus for Bitcoin. Ask me if I'm concerned. I'm not. But I'll tell you this, I'm happy as long as I don't hear them say anything about the energy use at this point of Bitcoin and about the other issues that we have highlighted multiple times on this channel. I've got my exposure set and I'm ready to watch this market do what it needs to. Ethereum 3,500 plus right now. Tether market cap is 103 billion. Plus, we are going to get into a very serious clip about that today. And XRP is 60 cents right now, off by 2.3 in the 24 and off by 2.7 on the 7-day. Range of price very quickly is between 60 and 63 cents. We're at 61 cents, almost flat. We'll keep an eye on it. Listen, this I do want to tell you about right here, and a couple things here. XRP Las Vegas is proud to know and that we are going to have Joe Indoso on stage from Link2 talking about private equity. What's going on? Is 2024 going to be an IPO season? Well, I want to hear about it, and there's so much more to learn as well, and I can't wait to celebrate Joe on stage and everything Link2 has accomplished over the last several years. But I also want to say, Circle is available on the platform right now, and also pay attention, there are a long list of events happening around, satellite events that are taking place around XRP Las Vegas. And Link2 is doing a couple functions. And if you're a member already, you want to make sure that you look in your email and check those invites out, because I'm going to be attending those as well. So I'd love to meet you at that event too, those events as well. Make sure you get those things. And if you haven't registered or signed up, you wouldn't believe how easy it is. And let me just say this, because I know there's a lot of people out here, as I thought for a long time myself, that it's much harder to qualify. It probably takes a long time to do. It doesn't. It doesn't. And if you think that's crazy, let me tell you something. Not only does it not take a long time to register, sign up, and get started, but funding your account has become so lightning fast, you will not believe it. Ask Mrs. Backup, because she always tells me to stop buying stuff, and I don't. And I can fund the account very quickly and purchase before she is ever aware of it. Speaking of which, I want to give a very special shout out to the woman in my life, Mrs. Backup. It is our anniversary today, so I hope all of you guys throw a comment underneath for Mrs. Backup and tell her happy anniversary as I am right now. This is just an amazing life that I have, and it's in no small part because of this amazing woman that is beside me the entire time. And I could not do anything that I've done today in measure of accomplishment and gains in my life if I did not have her by my side. And I mean every word of that. I love you. I hope you're having a great day at work. And one of these days I'll bring you home so you don't have to go to that place no more. Let's get into this.
First of all, I like always to start from...
Let's start from a nice place. I love this. This is Paulo Ardonio here, and he's with Tony from Thinking Crypto. Tony, shout out to you, man, for knocking this out of the park right here. This is 3 minutes and 23 seconds of Paulo Ardonio, and I hope I'm saying his name right, basically admitting that we did Tether wrong in the beginning, and we've gotten off to a bad start here. Take a listen to this clip.
A kind of mea culpa.
A mea culpa, right? I know he has an accent, so that's why I'm stopping. I won't stop it anymore, but before I go on, I have to tell you this, and I apologize for stopping it. It's this part that gets you. Tether, the world's largest stable coin with a market cap of more than 100 billion. according to the classification and definition submitted by the CFTC, would not qualify and be classified as a stablecoin under the CFTC proposed taxonomy. Look at what it says. One of the notable aspects of the categorization was one relating to stablecoins. It has a strict definition, particularly for backing assets, and it says reserves must only include cash and high-quality liquid assets. If these reserves include higher risk assets, then it will be classified as an other crypto asset. It says right here, Tether, world's largest stablecoin with a market capitalization of more than 100 billion, would not be classified as a stablecoin under the proposed CFTC taxonomy. Now let me play this.
Means that Tether should have been more open in the past years. Well, before 2022, we were fairly naive. We had, we thought that keeping our head down, having a great product, doing good work would be enough for people to finally understand that we are good guys. But it's also true. And, before 2022, we didn't even have a marketing team. Now we have a great marketing team. We have, great communication team. We improved ourselves because we understood that we were really, really naive. So the reality, though, is that, imagine a room full of people in 2020, all the greatest people of the crypto industry, all chatting among themselves and looking at us, right? In that room, there was also us, Tether. And in that room, they were all chatting and whispering and looking at us, like looking at the black sheep of the crypto industry. They were whispering to each other, saying, "Oh, Tether is going down. Of course, they don't have the money. Look at those, weird Italian guys, right? For sure, they are, shady." Then a few years later, 2023, 2024, in that room, you hear silence because not because because people may necessarily think better of us. I think many are actually, but in that room, there is almost no one remaining because all the mighty heroes of the crypto industry were the actual people that were doing the things that they accused us of. Let's remember the Celsius, the BlockFi, the FTX, this money. So what happens back then in May was that Tether was able to pay $7 billion in 48 hours, so 2 days. Wow. That was 10% of our reserves. And more than $20 billion in 20 days, that was 25% of our reserves. So Tether, since 2-3 years, have enjoyed the interest rates, the higher interest rates on the US T-bills. Right now, Tether holds, at the last attestation, 31st of December 2023, Tether held 80.3 billion in US T-bills. Wow. That puts Tether, I think, just behind Germany. If you think about China in the last 3 years, sold 3 years ago, they had like $2 trillion in USD bills. Now they have around 800 billion. Means that Tether holds around 10% of what China holds in terms of US debt. So we grew up. We are in a situation where every single person, imagine a person in Argentina that is buying USDT, we take the dollars and we invest and we purchase a piece of the US debt. So
and that's the sales pitch, right? Is, hey, U.S. needs people to buy bonds, and we're doing it more than Germany and more than this one. And listen, I don't think Paulo's a bad guy per se. I haven't gotten that impression. The only question I've ever had, Paulo, and this is directly to you, and it is the question of, what does the U.S. Treasury and the Federal Reserve think of Tether? Because we know that you've had to partner with the Secret Service, which is designed and originally created to chase down counterfeiters, and also FBI. So this makes me wonder. Again, I don't think it necessarily goes away, but I definitely see what's happening here. This is what I take away from this. Understanding the Secret Service, FBI have partnership with Tether now. understanding that up until 2022, they didn't really realize how much they were looked at as a bad actor because they're sitting outside of regulation. And it should have dawned on you, quite honestly, that you're selling the only product that the Federal Reserve has ever had, which is dollars and bonds, right? That's bonds for the dollar. So, you know, at the end of the day, you had to know that this was a little bit of an impact because you're going outside of the loop to sell digital dollars on the internet. So where this ends, I don't know. But looking at the CFTC and the way this is, they're either going to force the pressure through regulation that this is not a stable coin and you will be owning dark money like the dark web if you continue to own this at some point, or they're going to take this over and to call it something else, or they'll bleed it out by saying it's outside of regulation and the money will pour out of here, right? But then that would allow it to live, and that doesn't seem like something the U.S. government would be happy doing. However, you know, maybe just maybe, they just force it to come underneath of regulation with the right assets all the way around to back it. We'll have to see. But CFTC putting that definition and clarifying that it would not fall under the designation of a stable coin means that your ass is hanging out. And you need to do something to make sure that you button that up so it is not hanging out anymore. And I just don't know how hard the U.S. is going to go on this idea of whether they bring them under prudential regulation or whether they unwind them and watch the mass exodus. I just don't know. You know, will they become a poster child, for example, of what not to do without permission? Or, you know, it's hard to say. But it is something to watch because I do believe that if we witness a big event in this, it could be a huge catalyst in this space for probably a huge downside and then a big upside because that means regulation would be behind it. We could find out before this month is over, right? I mean, there could be legislation passed. Don't rule that out. There could be legislation passed before this month is out. We don't know, but we'll see. All right, here we go. Subjective Views shares this here. This is the IMF use Ripple in their products. They would enable seamless transfer of money to member countries in times of emergency. Just listen to this right here.
Just since the pandemic, we have provided some $1 trillion of liquidity and financing to our member countries. We introduced programs for emergency financing and direct debt relief to our members. And our macroeconomic work now includes a focus on climate, on gender, on digital money, on artificial intelligence. We are the only institution in the world that is empowered to take the pulse, to do health checks of the economies of our members, all of them, rich and poor, powerful and not so much. And then what we do is we translate this into policy advice to our members. We also recognize that we need to put in place better measurement of wealth that goes beyond the traditional GDP and values not only produce capital, but also nature, people, and the fabric of society. And I hope Keynes would approve of a global balance sheet that includes an expanded set of assets and recognizes the valuable services provided by the environment, the value of knowledge and ingenuity that is embedded in us, and the value of good governance.
A global balance sheet that has expanded assets. Stablecoins, CBDCs, crypto assets, digital assets. At the same time, the CFTC is coming up with definitions for stablecoins for which Tether does not fit. Smoke Dog here says, redefine existing correspondent banking relationships using cryptocurrencies as bridge, such as XRP here. This is just an example from the worldbank.org, obviously, right? Where they highlight here Ripple's own cryptocurrency, XRP, for foreign exchange transactions, as you can see. You know, this is the conversation and where it's going. And this is why I originally got in this space. This has always been about the US dollar and the shock that it will endure, knowing all the money printing that has been done and still continues to happen. And knowing that there's so many other nations, over 100 nations, that intend to, at some point, simultaneously de-dollarize and drop the dollar in hopes to harm the dollar and anyone that is remaining holding it, right? It's a very real plan. We've covered it here multiple times, which is why I have always believed myself, this is my opinion, I have always personally believed that Ripple and XRP were just as much commissioned as they were a startup. Because how else do you get the central banks of the world to open up and start having meetings with you? Because they're not meeting with me. Right? They're not meeting with you and I, but they meet with them. Someone had to open those doors. Maybe it was Greg Kidd because he came from the Federal Reserve. I don't know the answer, but what I do know is that that's always been my suspicion, that the United States knows where we are with the lifespan of the US dollar as a global reserve currency. And they know that something must be done to ensure and protect its dominance. And you can do that with a bridge currency. And it will allow the dollar to remain dominant if the design of the digital dollar is done right and protects the privacies of the people holding and using it. You know, adding the complement of a bridge currency can isolate those spillover shocks in a transition period that allows people to really continue to develop this technology around their dollars in their countries as well as the United States, and supporting this new system by introducing a new money. And that's the other part of this. A lot of people feel like, why do we need XRP if we could just digitize the dollars of the world? Because you haven't eliminated the friction of the paper world. All you've done is digitize it. But if you bring a new money, and I mean a very real new money, that's not conflated because you swung a gavel and said it's cost this much now, or it's worth this much now. It is because you bring a value protocol that can move value tokenized damn near instantly, and that bringing of liquidity and utility combined to that network will inform a value of the bridge asset that sits on it when you use it as applicable. So, and you don't and are not required to use it if you don't need to. And what is the best way to introduce a new money than that? Is to complement the system and not challenge it. Let's listen to this, because this is a narrative in the early days at Ripple, and I believe that it's my personal opinion, that they decided to tone down this kind of language that we have as YouTubers and onlookers of this and observers of what's been taking place, because this kind of talk scares regulators, right? But at the end of the day, this is where we're going, and it will help the dollar and the rest of the countries of the world to have a new bridge currency like XRP in the system.
This is a question regarding XRapid. So it seems, according to your explanation, XRapid would use XRPs as a part of the transaction. Do you think that the existing issued 100 billion XRPs will be enough to cover once the XRapid service scales to a global full scale, or would there be a shortage?
Well, so when XRP was created, this actually was created before Ripple existed. The creators of XRP decided there'd be 100 billion units because they saw it as rather than having a smaller number with a very high price, they saw it as something they wanted to be effectively a global reserve currency. I think the opportunity, well, there never will be more than 100 billion XRP. All the XRP that have ever been created have been created.
And there you have it. And that's from Brad Garlinghouse in the early days. And I don't think, I'm speculating, but I don't think the mission's changed. I think the verbiage has had to change so you stop scaring regulators thinking, because the way regulators are looking at it, most of them don't understand the space in great detail, right? So they're thinking Bitcoin, and then they hear people talk like this, and then they think, oh my God, they're trying to take over the world and everybody's dollars. It's like, that's not obviously the case here with Ripple. So I'm still just as bullish as ever, and actually even more so now. This is a great timeline very quickly here. Brazil, look at this, May 20th, Ripple and Brazil central banks hold closed meetings, discuss institutional matters. 2021, Brazil central banks announced CBDC plan. 21 of June, Berkshire Hathaway invests $500 million in Brazil's Paxos, powered by Nubank, a Ripple partner. And then August 22, Ripple partners with Travelex to utilize RippleNet's ODL. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And the same connections in India, the same connections in China. We know there's connections in Russia, we covered last week. South Africa, we know that there's huge connections there, right? On a freak, if you remember that. There it is right there, African cross-border payment system. Egypt connections, Ethiopia, on a freak again. UAE, we got connections there. You know this. You know, first of all, shout out to Ashley Prosper. This was a lot of work here, and I want you to go and read it. And maybe we even cover it in great detail in the next video, but for sake of time, let's keep moving. The expansion of connecting these areas and regions, and it's important to see that these three are in the BRICS coalition, and they all have ties to Ripple. And isn't that funny? Ripple just happens to have access to the XRP ledger and XRP, which happens to be a bridge currency. Pretty fitting, right? And as a reminder here, we covered in the first video this morning that Geco.com is selling bonds. It is a bank built on U.S. Treasury bonds to unlock yield safely and to scale. And shout out to DAI for this clip. And Geco is amazing. And about this U.S. Treasury bills connecting between what's happening here, how amazing is this? Because this is what Arthur Brito, one of the co-founders and creators of the XRP ledger, had to say in 2013 about bonds. He says, in response, shout out to DAI from this, Brito in 2013, Wiki has the old stuff, current stuff, future stuff, and mistakes. I believe Ripple will eventually support bonds and bond markets. Isn't that funny? Because that's what Geco offers to do. And Monica Long sitting on stage with him. When I look at all that fundamental news and then I see a chart like this, I'm not worried about anything. I just keep following that fundamental news, and pretty soon that chart will look a lot like all that fundamental news. And I'm sure it'll also be pretty timely with stablecoin legislation and the introduction of CBDCs to help move all this value on a brand new network, which will also change the value of XRP on that network. We're going into the Freedom Zone, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you'll join us. This one's going to be real good today. Oh, you're going to want to see this, right? Because this is what you're up against, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to take you into a clip that shows you exactly how the banks and the bankers see all of us. Oh, boy, oh, boy. Join us in the Freedom Zone, digperspectives.com. Click the Freedom Zone for next to nothing and come on in.